Up with this, which I hadn't seen from all the highlights on social media and all that. Right before the main event, Caitlin Clark gets called for a foul here, and she runs over and she's like, I didn't touch her. I didn't touch her. And they're saying, well, look at it. We'll look at it. We'll look at it. We'll look at it. She's like, wow, look at it. And she's right. There's no contact made. And the coach is like, so I'm running in.
Stephanie White just completely lost it on the WNBA referees, and honestly, she had every right to be furious. Caitlin Clark got absolutely destroyed on the court, thumb to the eye, body slam to the ground, and somehow nobody got tossed for it. White's reaction was legendary, but the league's was pathetic. Do you think the WNBA refs are purposely going after Caitlin Clark? All right, everyone. We need to talk about what happened in this game because Stephanie White just went nuclear on the refs, and honestly, every basketball fan should be applauding her for it. The refereeing in this game was so awful, so unfair, and so unprofessional that it went from being incompetent to seeming like it was on purpose.
I didn't touch her, and they're saying, well, look at it. We'll look at it. We'll look at it. We'll look at it. She's like, wow, look at it. And she's right. There's no contact made. She gets called for the foul. Watch this replay right here. Just no contact made, gets called for the foul. She tells the ref, she says, oh my God, watch it back after the game.
Caitlin Clark is called for a foul even though she didn't touch anyone. There was no contact at all, and it wasn't a close call. Clark walks over to the refs right away and says, I didn't touch her. I didn't touch her. And the refs are like, we'll check it out. They looked at it, and she was right. There was no contact at all. But did they change their minds? Of course not. Clark is already angry because she just got called for a fake foul, and she's asking the ref, watch it back after the game. Trust me, you'll see she's right. Everyone watching can see she's right, but the refs don't seem to care that they made a mistake.
Actually, we watch it right now. Look up. There it is. So that happened. They make both of their free throws, and then Indiana's got the ball, and it's the next possession right after she doesn't touch someone and gets the foul. Then you got Caitlin Clark with the ball, banging around top of the key. Her and J.C. Sheldon just banging around, and then she's going to take a finger to the eye and then gets bumped and then gets sent to the ground. Oh! She can't believe it. Oh, what the fuck?
She can't believe it. Oh, what the? Then, on the very next possession, the real assault starts. Clark has the ball at the top of the key, and JCS Sheldon comes over and swipes her thumb across Clark's eye and the bridge of her nose. Not a basketball play, not going for the ball, just a deliberate swipe to the face. That's assault, not basketball. But it doesn't stop there. After Sheldon pokes Clark in the eye, she walks up to her and gives her a little bump with her body, just enough to mess with Clark while she's trying to recover from getting her eye scratched. That's two separate fouls right there. The jab in the eye and the body.
What? Are you kidding me? I just got fouled for not touching someone, and they just tore my eyeball out and banged me to the ground. So we'll slow down and enhance this. It's a thumb swipe to the eye and the bridge of the nose. And then JC walks up to her and kind of leans in a little, straightens up, throws the belly at her, right? Just like, boom, just a little bump. And she's like, God, stop. And then number 3, Marina Mabry just sends her to the ground. So there's a little bump from Sheldon, and then blindsided number 3 bangs her to the ground and stares at her while she's down. Yeah.
Let's recap what just happened to Caitlin Clark, and there's more. Marina Mabry decides she wants to get in on the action. So she comes over and completely blindsides Clark, sending her to the ground while she's not even looking. Clark's span of about 10 seconds, she got called for a phantom foul where she didn't touch anyone, then she got poked in the eye, then she got bumped by the same player who poked her in the eye, then she got body slammed to the ground by a completely dealing with. Getting poked in the eye, gets bumped by Sheldon, and then Mabry just runs into her and knocks her down. 3 separate players, 3 separate fouls, all on one play, so different player, and she's lying on the court looking around like, what the hell just happened to me?
They look at the replay for far too long. Just way too long, almost impossibly too long. This is just a quick clip, but you can tell by everyone else's faces around them, they're bored. Just so bored. And it just, I mean, this feels like a long time. It's not, but it was like way longer than this. This is just one clip. They looked at it for so long. She's like, please don't see what I did. Please don't see what I did. And good news, flagrant 1. on JC. Yeah. What about the shove? She's like, we didn't have a look at somebody shoving. It should have been an ejection. That's really bad. You spent that much time looking at the replay and you...
refs then spend what feels like an eternity looking at the replay. Everyone in the arena is bored waiting for them to make a decision because it's taking so long. They're looking at this obvious assault like they're trying to figure out quantum physics. Meanwhile, the players who committed the fouls are standing around hoping the refs don't see what everyone else in the building can clearly see after all that review time, after looking at multiple angles of Clark getting assaulted. What do the refs? Come up with a flagrant 1 on JCS Sheldon for the eye poke. That's it. No ejection, no flagrant 2, no additional fouls called on the other players involved, just a flagrant 1, which is basically a slap on the wrist for what amounted to a coordinated attack on the league's biggest STA.
And the coach is like, so I'm about to talk.
This is where Stephanie White completely loses it, and rightfully so. She's watching her franchise player get assaulted by multiple opponents while the refs act like they're doing everyone a favor by calling 1 weak flagrant foul. White is running onto the court, asking why nobody got ejected, why they didn't review the shove that sent Clark to the ground, why they spent all that time looking at the replay, and somehow missed half of what happened. White's reaction was perfect because she was saying what every reasonable basketball fan was thinking. You spend 5 minutes reviewing an obvious assault, and you come up with 1 measly flagrant foul. You see multiple players attacking 1 player in sequence, and nobody gets thrown out of the game. What exactly do you have to do to get ejected in this league if assaulting the MVP candidate isn't enough? The most infuriating part is that the refs act like they're being generous by calling anything at all, like they're doing the Fever a huge favor by acknowledging that poking someone in the eye might be a foul. Meanwhile, Clark is making her free throws and trying to get back to playing basketball while dealing with whatever damage was done to her eye.
Free throw number 1, number 2, and number 3. Doesn't miss. Now let's move on. 4 minutes left in the fourth.
Here's where it gets even better. Later in the game, Clark and Sheldon are matched up again, and Clark hits a deep 3 right in Sheldon's face. Clark celebrates accordingly, which she has every right to do after getting assaulted earlier. She's basically telling Sheldon, "You can poke me in the eye, but you still can't stop me from scoring." Then Clark starts clapping in Sheldon's face as a pass goes airy, and Sheldon tries to talk trash, saying, "You can't guard me." Clark fires back with, "Oh yeah, and you can guard me." With some cheering and trash talk of her own, the crowd likes it, her teammates love it, everyone's getting hyped because Clark is standing up for herself after getting jumped earlier. This is where Sophie Cunningham decides she's had enough of watching her teammate get disrespected. She sees JC Sheldon talking trash to Clark after assaulting her earlier, and she decides to send a message. Cunningham takes Sheldon down to the ground, grabs her by the head, and starts yelling at her. It's simply Cunningham saying, "You want to assault my teammate? Let me show you what that feels like." The beautiful thing about Cunningham's retaliation is how calm and controlled she is about it. She's not losing her temper, getting emotional. She's just methodically taking care of business. She throws Sheldon to the ground with the most peaceful expression you've ever seen, like she's found inner zen through the act of defending her teammate. Cunningham grabs Sheldon by the back of the head and whispers in her ear, "Do something about it." Multiple times, she's basically challenging Sheldon to escalate the situation while having complete physical control over her. It's psychological warfare at its finest. Cunningham is showing Sheldon what helplessness feels like while daring her to do something about it. The crowd is going absolutely crazy during all this because they're seeing someone finally stand up for Caitlin Clark after watching her get assaulted without any real consequences. Cunningham becomes an instant hero to Fever fans because she's doing what the ref should have done, making sure there are actual consequences for targeting their star player. Of course, Cunningham gets ejected for this, which is the most predictable thing in the world. Somehow assaulting Caitlin Clark gets you a flagrant 1, but defending Caitlin Clark gets you thrown out of the game. The message from the refs is crystal clear: you can attack Clark with minimal consequences, but if you try to protect Hergon Cunningham walks off the court like she just won the championship, high-fiving fans and throwing her talent to the crowd. She knows she did the right thing, the fans know she did the right thing, and her teammates know she did the right thing. The only people who don't seem to understand what just happened are the referees. This whole sequence perfectly illustrates everything wrong with WNBA officiating when it comes to Caitlin Clark, the league's biggest star, the player who's bringing unprecedented attention and revenue to women's basketball, gets assaulted on national television, and the refs act like it's no big deal. But when someone tries to protect her, suddenly the refs remember how to call fouls and hand out ejections. Stephanie White's reaction to all this was completely justified because she's watching a pattern of officiating that seems designed to allow opponents to target her franchise player. This isn't the first time Clark has been on the receiving end of questionable officiating or overly physical play that doesn't get properly called. White has probably been holding back her frustration for months, and this game was finally the breaking point. The fact that White had to argue with the refs about why nobody got ejected for assaulting her player shows how backwards the officiating priorities are in this league. She shouldn't have to explain to professional referees that poking someone in the eye and Bodis slamming them to the ground warrants more than a flagrant one that should be obvious to anyone with functioning eyeballs. White's post-game comments were probably even more harsh than her on-court reaction. Since she had time to process what she experienced, she probably pointed out the blatant prejudice in how the refs handled the situation, how they spent forever investigating a clear assault, and somehow came up with the minimal possible punishment. The league office should be embarrassed by this officiating performance because it makes them look either incompetent or biased. Either the refs don't know how to properly officiate basketball games, or they're intentionally allowing Clark to be targeted. Both options are unacceptable for a professional sports league. What makes this even more frustrating is that this kind of officiating is hurting the league's biggest star and most marketable player. Clark is bringing millions of new fans to women's basketball, and those fans are watching her get assaulted while refs act like it's normal basketball contact. That's not going to encourage people to keep watching or supporting the league. The contrast between how Clark gets officiated versus how she's protected is stark. In men's basketball, star players get superstar calls and extra protection from the refs. In the WNBA, the biggest star gets phantom fouls called against her and minimal protection. When opponents assault her, it's completely backwards from a business and competitive standpoint. Stephanie White's explosion was also important because it shows Clark that her coach and organization have her back. After watching her get jumped by multiple players with minimal consequences, seeing her coach go to fight with the refs on her behalf undoubtedly meant a lot to Clark. It shows she's not alone in dealing with this biased officiating. The fact that the Fever won this game despite everything that happened makes it even sweeter. Clark got called for phantom fouls, got assaulted by multiple players, saw her teammate get ejected for defending her, and still found a way to help her team win. That's the kind of mental toughness that separates good players from great ones. But the real story here is Stephanie White refusing to accept the unacceptable. She saw her player get assaulted, saw the refs fail to properly address it, and decided she wasn't going to stay quiet about it. That's exactly the kind of leadership this league needs: coaches who will call out bad officiating and demand better protection for their players. The WNBA needs to seriously examine its officiating standards after games like this, because the inconsistency and apparent bias are becoming impossible to ignore when the league's biggest star is getting assaulted on national television without proper consequences. That's a problem that goes way beyond just bad officiating. Stephanie White was absolutely right to go off on these refs because what happened to Caitlin Clark was completely unacceptable. Someone had to stand up and call out this garbage officiating before it gets even worse. What did you think of White's reaction? Was she justified, or did she go too far? Drop your thoughts.